I used to think favoritism looked obvious. Something loud. Something cruel. Something people outside the family could point at and say, "That's unfair." In my family it was softer than that. Almost polite. My younger sister Claire was the one people admired. She was beautiful in the way strangers noticed immediately. Charming without trying. The kind of person who walked into a room and somehow made everyone feel like they had been waiting for her. I was the one who kept things running. No one ever said that outright. It was just how things arranged themselves. If there was a dinner, I helped cook. If relatives visited, I prepared the guest rooms. If something needed organizing, I was so good with details. It sounded like praise. It felt like gravity. By the time Claire got engaged in early December, the pattern was already automatic. My parents decided to host a Christmas Eve party to celebrate the engagement. Not a casual gathering either. One of those carefully curated events where every glass and napkin was supposed to say something about the family. I came downstairs 3 days before Christmas and found a folded sheet of paper on the kitchen island. My name was written across the top. Inside was a list. It started normal enough: pick up decorations, buy ingredients for dinner, wrap gifts for the relatives arriving that evening. But as I kept reading, the tasks multiplied. Clean the dining room chandelier, rearrange the living room furniture, prepare appetizers for 30 guests, bake 2 desserts, pick up Claire's dress from alterations, collect wine from the specialty store across town. By the time I reached the bottom, it looked less like a list and more like a work schedule. My mother said it lightly when she saw me reading it. "You're just better at these things." Claire walked through the kitchen at that moment, laughing about something on her phone. She kissed my mother's cheek, grabbed a coffee, and left again without even glancing at the paper. No one said anything cruel. That was the strange part. Everyone just assumed I would handle it. Christmas Eve arrived gray and cold. I spent the morning driving between stores while messages from the family group chat filled my phone. People confirming their arrival times, my mother reminding guests about parking, Claire sending photos of her manicure. By early afternoon I had crossed off maybe a third of the list. When I returned home, another note had been added in my mother's handwriting. "Can you also set up the patio heaters?" The house was full of quiet excitement. My parents moved through the rooms, discussing where guests would stand, how the lights should look through the windows. Claire was upstairs getting ready with music playing. No one asked how the cooking was going. At some point I carried the list out to my car. I told myself I just needed a few minutes of quiet before starting the next errands. I sat there longer than I meant to. The paper rested on the steering wheel. The items weren't even difficult individually. I could probably finish everything if I kept moving fast enough. That wasn't the part that bothered me. What bothered me was the clarity of it. If I completed the list, the evening would unfold exactly as everyone expected. The house would look beautiful. Guests would praise the party. Claire would glow in the center of the room. And I would move quietly between the kitchen and dining room, making sure nothing went wrong. I opened my phone. The flight search felt almost accidental at first, just curiosity, just a distraction. Then a flight appeared leaving that night. Rome. The departure time was late enough that I could still make it. I stared at the screen for a long time before pressing the purchase button. The confirmation email arrived instantly. The strange thing was how calm I felt. When I walked back inside the house, the music upstairs was louder. My parents were discussing seating arrangements at the dining table. I went into the kitchen and set the list on the counter. Next to it, I placed my phone and recorded a message. I didn't yell, I didn't accuse anyone, I just explained. I talked about the list. About how often things like that happened. About how the family celebrations always depended on someone being invisible enough to keep everything working. I sent the recording to the extended family group chat, the same one where everyone had been talking about tonight's party all week. Then I left the phone beside the list. By the time the first guests started arriving, I was already halfway to the airport. I imagined the house slowly filling with people in coats and scarves. Someone asking where the appetizers were. Someone noticing the decorations weren't finished. Eventually someone would check the group chat. The message would be there, sitting between conversations about parking and wine. Maybe someone would play it aloud. Maybe they wouldn't. Either way, the house would feel different once people knew. At the airport the waiting area was quiet. A few families traveling for the holidays sat near the windows, their luggage stacked around them. I watched the runway lights flicker in the distance. My phone buzzed once in my pocket, probably the family realizing I wasn't there, but I didn't take it out. For the first time in years, I wasn't calculating how the evening would unfold. I wasn't wondering whether the food would be ready, or if the candles were straight, or if someone needed help. The plane boarded slowly. When I sat by the window, the cabin lights dimmed and the city outside blurred into orange lines. I didn't know what the message would change. Maybe the party continued awkwardly. Maybe it ended early. Maybe nothing about my family actually shifted at all. Leaving didn't solve any of that. But somewhere below, a house full of guests was discovering what the evening looked like without me quietly holding it together. And for the first time, that responsibility no longer belonged to me.